Hi, this is Lynn again with Kansas Troubles Quilters. Thanks for joining me today for a vintage Christmas sampler. Our quilt along is running June through August of 2025. This is block 3, Grandpa's Hard Candy. Now, if you had a grandpa like I did, when I was a little girl, my grandfather smoked a pipe, and he always thought his breath smelled like tobacco, which it kind of did. I did not mind the pipe smell, but he always had a peppermint in his pocket and would share with us. And it was always a treat because we didn't get a lot of candy and sugar at my house. So Grandpa's Hard Candy was a fun block for me to do with a lot of memories and reminiscing involved. This block has everything. It has half square triangles, it has connecting corners, and it has setting triangles. So we'll break it down for you so you will have a perfect block. Half square triangles, in my directions, I always try to give you a little bit extra. So if you're sewing the two squares, drawing a line diagonally, stitching on both sides of the line, you cut on the drawn line, and then press your seams open like so. We've got over 1/8 of an inch to trim on all four sides to get the perfect size of half square triangle that we want. Now you'll notice with this particular block, I chose to use this fun stripe, and to make sure that the stripe is going in the same direction all the way around the block, you want to draw your line diagonally across the stripes. And that's where you'll stitch, is across the stripes, not with the stripes. So keep that in mind when you're working with this fabric. So after you have made all of your half square triangles in the red and the green, then we're going to lay them out. Now, one of the things I realized, even in the illustration in the pattern on page 5, you'll notice that the pinwheel, essentially, the candy is a pinwheel. It spins in one direction on the samples and then in the other direction after the setting triangle. So I've made some of mine going one way and some going the other way. It really doesn't matter as long as they're all going in the same direction. So for this one, we went in clockwise direction. After you have your four half square triangles that match sewn together, then we're going to add our connecting corners to all four corners to kind of soften it and round it up like a peppermint would be. So we're going to, again, draw a line, stitch on the line, finger press to the corner the first couple times to make sure that our stitching is going to result in a nice 90-degree corner there. We're going to press our seams open. And you can see this one, I must have sprayed a little bit more with some Terrio Magic, and it might have shrunk a little bit, so I don't have a perfect 90-degree angle there. But when I add my setting triangles, I can fix that. So, a setting triangle. Under the tan number 6 background, C says to cut 8 4.5-inch squares, and then in parentheses, there's a slanted line. That means that you cut that square in half diagonally to get 2 triangles. We're going to add 4 of those triangles around each block. And it's really easy to center these because we have a seam. So we'll just line that point up with the seam. And we'll definitely have extras on both sides, as you can see, but we know it's centered because the point of that triangle, setting triangle, is right on the seam here. So we're going to stitch our 1/4-inch seam, put a triangle on opposite sides, stitch those 2 on first, press toward the triangles, and then add to the other 2 sides. And you'll get this block. Now you can see this is not perfect around the outside edges, and we don't really care because we're going to trim these down to 6.5 inches. The 4.5-inch setting triangle is actually oversized a little bit to give you that extra grace so you can trim it down. So right now, I'm going to reach for my 6.5-inch square ruler because that is going to give me a perfect trimmed square. We know that half of 6.5 is 3.25, but on this particular ruler, I have a 45-degree line going both directions. So where that intersection is in the center, I position it right over the center of my pinwheel and then trim all the excess. I've drawn it in the blue with my marking pencil so you can see that. But once I trim that off, I'm going to have very generous seams around the outside edge, more than 1/4 of an inch. So your block is actually going to float a little bit once you piece it into the quilt. And that, again, just gives us a little wiggle room in case we need to adjust as we're stitching our blocks together in assembly. So we have half square triangles, we have our connecting corners, and we have setting triangles. Fun, easy block. I hope it brings you fond memories of someone from your childhood, and I will see you next week for block 4.